Roll it. Welcome to The Point.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to yet another episode, the 17th episode. We just had our 4-month anniversary already, Haystacks. But welcome to the 17th episode of The Point. Again, there's your boy, the man, the myth, the legend, Haystacks. And, of course, I'm your boy, Ricky B. Now, we all know there's a whole lot going on in the world right now. The world is burning. The world is hurting. There's a lot of misconceptions. There's a lot of attitudes. There's a lot of, for lack of a better word, just evil going on right now. So I want to take a minute right here, right now, before we go any further. And I want to plead. I want to look right into the camera, and I want to plead with everybody out there right now. Listen to me. What happened in Minnesota is what happened in Minnesota. That situation right there, Minneapolis, okay? There's no need to be burning down other people's businesses, man. There's no need for the LA, Ohio, North Carolina, and states all over the country. These are people, many of these people are your own people. These are beyond that, immigrants, people who have came here, busted their ass and bent over backwards to grow a business, to thrive in this country. And you're killing that dream, not only for them, but for your children and for your children's children. Because I don't know if you know this or not, and I'm not a very political person, but it's like this. By burning these businesses down, what you're effectively doing is ruining the future for anybody else. Because these businesses are not going to rebuild where they're at. You know the old saying, you fool me once, shame on you. You fool me twice, shame on me. Something to keep in mind, food for thought. Pray, have some common sense. And I know that's not a popular thing nowadays. It's not a common thing. But I don't see how stealing is honoring the memory, if you will, of Mr. Floyd. I don't see how burning buildings down, cutting officers' throats and stabbing them in the necks. And I don't see how any of that is remembering Mr. Floyd. And let me end with this, and Haystacks will get your thoughts. Keep playing games if you want to, okay? But I want to make this just like Dan Bongino, okay? Former Secret Service agent. He said it on national TV, and I want to reiterate right here and now. It's all fun and games until you go over that fence at the White House. When you go over that fence, it's game over. There's no cell phone video. There's no outcry. There's no feeling sorry for you. The first one gets arrested. The second one gets arrested. Those are the two warnings the Secret Service gives. After that, things get really shitty really fast. Let's kill this jazz right here, right now. Let's come together. If there is reform to be had, let's come together, peacefully talk about it, and let's get it done. But Haystacks, I feel like this is falling on deaf ears.
Yeah, I mean, you know, everybody, a peaceful protest is fine. You know, we've seen it here in Ohio about a month ago. Everybody, everybody here in Ohio, your big complaint is, you know, a bunch of hillbillies with guns protested to get their hair cut, blah, blah, blah. That's not the case. We protested to have the right to be able to go back to our jobs to provide for our families.
Right.
We did it peacefully. There was nothing destroyed. There were no cops injured. There was no hostility other than the counter protesters. We cleaned up our mess afterwards. We had respect for our communities. What's going on now? Yes, there are peaceful protesters, absolutely, and we support you 100%. But these paid protesters that their job is to go out and cause anarchy and everything else, not one bit do we support that. Right now, last night, in the city of Columbus, Ohio, where I'm from, we were sent home from a grocery store where we provide a service for people to be able to come in, for the elderly to come in and get their medications, to get their food, to get their supplies. And you assholes caused us to have to close at 5 o'clock, costing me money out of my pocket to be able to take care of my kids, to be able to have the elderly come in and be able to get their medications. For what?
For free stuff.
You guys burnt Children's Hospital. Children's Hospital. Let that sink in a little bit. You went and you caught a hospital full of sick children on fire. What the hell did those children do to you? And it's not just, children of a certain race. It's all children. They deal with cancer children, spina bifida children. They have a burn unit for children. They have a trauma unit for children that are being injured by you idiots as we speak. And you're burning it down? Absolutely disgusting.
That's the only word for it. Disgusting. So we'll leave it there. That's our plea to you. Our plea to you, America, out there, everybody watching, and all over the world now, apparently. That is our plea to you. Use common sense. If you want to make change, you have to be a part of that change. Okay? And that goes from the smallest things in your life to the biggest things in life. And yes, I know there's a lot of emotion. Yes, it's a shitty situation. But this is not how you handle it. All right? Stealing a 65-inch TV from Walmart does not honor the memory of Floyd. The officer was fired and he was charged. What do you want? Now, on the flip, what's that?
Speaking of which, as everybody has probably seen here on The Point, we do 100% fully support a thin blue line. But this guy was not part of that thin blue line. This guy was a piece of trash hiding behind a badge that should have been fired well over 20 years ago.
Right.
With 17 prior infractions on his record.
Amen.
Without getting into the politics of that is the mayor, the district attorney, and the governor's fault of that state for allowing this to happen.
So if you want to be mad at somebody, obviously the officer, but you need to be mad at all them too. I pray for change. I pray for peace, but I also pray for common sense. All right. There is no black. There is no white. There is no Hispanic. There is no Asian. There is only the damn human race. And it's high time in this country. And I'm going to get off my damn soapbox and we're going to get into what you know and love. But it's high time in this damn country that we all come together. Now, I know the backlash and the other side of the story is, well, these officers this and these officers that, and we're dying left and right. Use your head, pull up the statistics, read it for yourself. The facts do not support the comments and the public statements. And I am ashamed at some of these celebrities bailing out people that are burning businesses down and assaulting other people. And if you don't see that with your own eyes, something is wrong with you. And, if you have a problem with it, pointiswhat@gmail.com. Myself and Haystacks will be more than glad to have an adult conversation with you about it. But we got to move on. Haystacks, we're 10 minutes in already, it seems. So let's go ahead.
One thing real quick before we do jump into this.
Go ahead.
These people that are gooing and going over these celebrities, over that one guy that we don't mention, and all these actresses that are saying that we're going to start a GoFundMe and we're going to pay for your bail. That's an easy bet to make, and it's a false promise, because I'm here to tell you, with a little bit of lost common sense that I have, 80% of these people that are being arrested are from out of state, which then makes it a federal crime. There is no bail when you make a federal offense.
Yep. Now check this out. Here's the most important thing that I want everybody to take away from this. It's the last thing, honest to God, that I'm going to say. Let this sink in for a second. They're not starting GoFundMes for the mom and pop that literally started with nothing and had their entire lives burnt to the ground. They're starting GoFundMes for the people that are doing it.
Oops.
So moving on, getting into the point. Haystacks, point or no point this week, big news. The continued fallout from the last dance. Scottie Pippen, we already know he's got a little bit of an attitude because of how the show portrayed him with the contract, the injury, things like that, sitting out, holding out. But this week he says, quote, when I go back and look at Kobe Bryant's videos, his highlights, I say to myself, damn, he was better than Michael Jordan. Point or no point?
It's a point.
Damn right it's a point, because this is a very valid argument. Who was the better basketball star? Was it Kobe Bryant? Was it Michael Jordan?
You know I'm always going to say Michael Jordan no matter what.
Right? Me too.
Kobe came in, and I mean, and don't get me wrong, God rest Kobe's soul. I love Kobe Bryant. I don't have a bad word to say about Kobe Bryant whatsoever. But Kobe Bryant came in to a generation that was getting weak.
Right.
He came into the game when the game began its downtrend on the Dennis Rodmans, where they could throw you on the ground, and the Charles Oakleys throwing elbows whenever you're coming in. They started kind of cutting down on that, and it's got worse since that other clown joined the NBA and they got to pad him.
Right.
And that's not taken away from Kobe Bryant's greatness whatsoever, because I believe that Kobe Bryant would have been great in Jordan's era. He had that aura about him. He had that Jordan mentality, and he learned how to play the game from Michael Jordan.
Right.
But I think this is right here is just sour grapes from Pip, honestly. And I mean, I hate to see it. I understand where he's coming from, but I mean, the proof is in the pudding in The Last Dance. Kobe Bryant was talking a little bit of trash to Michael Jordan, and what happened? Michael called a shot and he lit that ass up.
Oh yeah, shut him down. Yeah, absolutely. See, well, here's my take on the whole thing: is there's no doubt Kobe Bryant is one of the greatest of all time. There's no doubt.
Absolutely.
Regardless of what number he was wearing, what allegations were levied against him, there's no doubt that Michael Jordan is, in my opinion, the greatest of all time, regardless of what number he was wearing or how many times he retired. But here's the thing with Kobe Bryant. Everyone likes to make the argument that Kobe Bryant copied Michael Jordan, okay? And I'm one of those people that agree with that 100%. And I personally don't see a problem with that. Now, if you watch the highlights from Michael Jordan and Kobe's career, does it matter that you copied someone? If you can, just because you can copy someone's moves and their skill set, does that mean you're any less great if you can actually pull that off and win championships? Absolutely not. Some could argue, in fact, that that's even more cerebral and even more champion-like to pull off what he pulled off. Now, as far as Pippen goes, I agree. I think it's sour grapes. I think it's continued fallout from The Last Dance. I think he doesn't like how he was portrayed in that documentary. But simply put, saying Kobe was better than Michael Jordan, man, come on. That's a stretch. Because one had 5 rings, one had 6, right?
Yep.
And we can compare teams. We can compare, like people like to compare Jordan to LeBron and all this other. Oh, I said his name. People like to compare. Yeah. People like to compare them too. And you can compare all you want to. But the simple fact of the matter is they're 2 different people, 2 different eras. that slightly overlapped. It was fun to watch them play each other. It was really fun to see how the respect they went back and forth. But Pip, let it go, man. Let it go.
All you got to do is get on the phone with ESPN and say, "Hey, I want my own documentary," and I bet they'd give it to you. I mean, simple phone call, bro.
And there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to talk about. Scottie Pippen will no doubt go down, and he should, and he is one of the greatest basketball players on this earth to ever walk this earth, with or without Michael Jordan. So I'll leave that there. So definitely point there. Good point. Start the show. But next up, Haystacks, point or no point. Are the New Orleans Saints interested in Jadeveon Clowney, defensive end? Point or no point?
They should be, and that's the point.
All right, well, point it is. The former South Carolina Gamecock standout and defensive end made one thing clear during his free agency. He wants to play for a winner. Clowney received lucrative contract offers from the Seattle Seahawks, from the Cleveland Browns, and I believe that's the only two since the start of free agency in March. However, he refused both offers, regardless of how much money those teams offered. Several rumors to this point had the New Orleans Saints linked to Clowney, which, oh my God, Jadeveon Clowney in the NFC South, Jesus. 1-year contract would bode well for both sides in 2020. And for Clowney, it serves as an opportunity to increase his free agent value and chase a Super Bowl ring. So we are going to see. He is in a mind frame, apparently, from sources that he is in a Super Bowl or bust mode. He's not one of those players that is willing to just sit back, be known, Jadeveon Clowney's pretty good, and he make a little bit of money and be well off. He's one of those ones that he's chasing a damn Super Bowl, and it may just happen, especially if he signs with the New Orleans Saints.
I changed my mind. If he turned down a deal from the Browns, I hope nobody signs him. Browns go to a Super Bowl just to smear it in his face.
And one thing we know, especially with all this stuff going on right now, we don't know what the season's going to look like, and anything can happen. Any given Sunday, as they say, right? So definitely an interesting point. But my next point or no point, I'm sure you probably heard about this. There is, in the WWE, there is a quote-unquote blacklist of wrestling moves, right?
Right.
So real quick, before we get into it, or not get into it, Vince McMahon has banned yet another wrestling move. Point or no point?
Point.
Gotcha. So again, big point, and I think this is worth talking about because there's a hell of a backstory on this. Again, blacklist of wrestling moves not to be used in the WWE, specifically stated by Vince McMahon, not others. He just has a list of stuff that I'm sure when it hurts his wallet, you know what I mean, is when he adds these moves to this so-called blacklist. But the latest move, as I'm sure it comes as no surprise being banned, is the buckle bomb, made famous by Seth Rollins on the main stage in WWE. Now, that to me is common sense. That to me is that's common sense, because let's think about it. We were joking the other day that Seth is now responsible for taking out 2 Irishmen.
Right.
But he legit did. A buckle bomb to Finn Balor tonight, the night Finn Balor won the first ever Universal Championship. He buckle bombed him into the barricade and exploded Finn Balor's shoulder. So you take him out, you injure him, he's out forever. You mess that moment up, although accidental. And then, of course, what happens? You finally get the last WCW holdout to sign in WWE, the Stinger, man. And nobody was more excited than me. He has this WrestleMania moment, NWO, DX, Triple H, all that shit. And the next thing you know, he stays on for a little bit longer. He signs on for another match. He does a match with Seth Rollins, and tragedy strikes. He takes the buckle bomb, didn't tuck his chin, spinal stenosis, a little bit closer to the end of the rope than he thought, and his entire body goes numb in the match. So, and it was hard to see Sting go out like that, man. But understand why this move's being blacklisted, because not only is it a bad deal all the way around, but especially given the coronavirus situation and not having crowds and losing profits, the last thing you need to do is lose more talent because of a wrestling move that you can pull off any number of other ways and protect the talent.
Absolutely.
So what's your thoughts on this buckle bomb?
I mean, I understand it, but at the same time, we got to remember too that they banned what's that move of AJ Styles? Shoot.
Styles Clash?
Yes, they banned it. They let him bring it back. They banned the Tombstone at one point and brought it back.
They banned the curb stop and they let him bring it back.
Never brought it back.
Right.
I mean, I think really the final straw with that one was the match that we saw with Nia, I believe it was Nia Jax, and was it Kairi Sane?
Yeah, that was ugly, man.
And Kairi was trying to tell her, no, don't do it. You could hear her screaming.
Yep.
And
she was
set. And I believe we've talked about this about 3 weeks ago. I believe that was the final nail in the coffin for that move. And I mean, again, it's understandable, but at the same time, we know that Nia is a dangerous worker. She's injured half the female roster at this point.
Right.
Seth Rollins, he's getting to be in that same area of being a dangerous worker.
Yes, you brought up a good point with Nia Jax, and that's something we need to touch on. I think WWE is starting to get lazy. I think the politics behind the scenes is getting a little out of control with some of these talents. And far be it for me to say I'm not on the road 300 days a year, putting my life, my body, I should say, on the line to entertain fans. But how do you watch somebody is blatantly out of control, bull in a china shop kind of thing? Now, I understand she's an awesome Kong. She's an over the top. She's the Brock Lesnar of the women's division, so to speak. But how do you overlook and look past somebody who is constantly hurting the talent? And let's be honest, the women's division in WWE is not massive by any means.
No.
Now, they do a pretty good job of keeping women talent coming in, but how many people is going to be injured by Nia Jax before they pull back and go, okay, listen, you're going back to NXT, you're going back to I mean, for one, she just came off of a pretty serious injury, 2 of them.
Right.
And I would have thought
when she came into the men's Royal Rumble match, she almost she didn't almost. She screwed up that spot. I can't remember who it was. She threw over the top rope and about freaking killed that dude.
Yep.
Was Mysterio?
Rey Mysterio. Yes, sir.
And he was out for like 6 to 8 weeks with a shoulder injury from that one. Yep. I mean, I understand, because I'm a big person myself, that some people don't understand their own strength. I've been there. But when somebody is trusting you with their body, man, I mean, like Seth Rollins, I know it's not fair because, he's only injured a couple people, but Sting has had a 30-some, almost 40-year career.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't recall Sting ever being injured in the ring until he had a match with Seth Rollins.
The only injury I remember Sting ever happened is when he jumped out of the cage at, what was it, War Games or something? He jumped out of the cage and landed and tore his ACL, and then they did the angle with.
This is a man that's been through War Games. This is a guy that's been through bunkhouse. The boot house bunk matches.
Bunkhouse brawl.
Steel cage matches, Halloween Havoc matches. This isn't a light worker. This isn't a Brock Lesnar worker. This is a guy that's been through some of the most grueling matches in wrestling history.
Yeah, buddy. And not just with anybody. We're talking about with the Steamboats, the Sid Viciouses, the Elegantes, the Lex Lugers, the damn big boys. Big boys. So,
Arn Anderson, one of the stiffest workers in the damn business. When the dude clotheslines you, you know you've been hit by a real man.
And let's not forget Barry Windham either. So, all honorable mentions to the legacy of Sting and his ability to avoid injury. Now, that's the only one I remember, other than, and then they ran the angle with the Four Horsemen where they hit him and beat him down to write him off of TV. And, I mean, he's had other minor injuries and some tears and things like that, I'm sure. But, yeah, so there you go. There's the case right there. Completely agree with the scenario. In the wrestling world, especially in this day and time in pro wrestling, there is enough innovation and enough moves out there. If WWE would allow them to get out of these 3 move sets and expand their horizons just a little bit, it's okay if it overlaps. It's okay if more than one guy uses a power bomb, as long as it's not a finisher. There's other ways to do it.
Here's the thing, man. We're in an age of it's no longer wrestling. We're not 13. We understand that this is entertainment. If you're going to do those moves, have the common sense to have extra padded turnbuckles that stick out past the ropes. I mean, come on, Vince. Spend the extra $30 to add extra padding to your turnbuckles. That way they hit the pillow and it totally avoids it. It doesn't mess up the show and it doesn't hurt your people. Plus, you need to have this to where if you hurt more than 2 people in a 6-month period, you automatically back to NXT and you got to retry this whole thing again and earn your spot.
Yeah. So you know how it is, the almighty dollar, right? It's what makes the world go round. The almighty dollar. You can't tell me that the doctors are not pushing people through and approving people that shouldn't be approved otherwise. So, nonetheless, the bottom line is when it comes down to the buckle bomb is bad news all the way around. By anyone who's ever used it, it's never turned out well. And same goes for the curb stomp. And like you were talking about the tombstone, concussions. If concussions are as prevalent as they are, then simply put, none of these things should be used in a wrestling ring. So with that being said, it is time for our break. So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come right back on the other side of this and get right back into some really hard-hitting stuff. We've got some good material to cover. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you in a few on the backside of this break.
Join us next week for another action-packed episode of The Point.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back from the break. Thank you for sticking with us. Your boy Haystacks, your boy Ricky B. We're going to jump right back into this. So, Haystacks, point or no point, I don't know if you heard, Broncos' Melvin Gordon says playing without fans would be absolutely normal for the Chargers. Point or no point?
That's really not a point because everybody knows it, but we'll talk about it because his quote was pretty damn funny.
Yeah, it was. My first take, of course, is, no pun intended, Stephen A. But why would he say something like that, man? But, I mean, you dig into it a little bit, and, there's clearly no love lost between Melvin Gordon and the Los Angeles Chargers. The rift began, of course, when the running back refused to report to training camp at the start of 2019 regular season until his contract demands were met. But they never were. And risking tarnishing his brand in the contract year, he ultimately returned to the field, of course, like they always do, seems like. And meanwhile, the Chargers tabled all talks with Gordon, and that included pulling away from an offer that was reportedly worth upwards of $10 million a year. But Gordon repeatedly made it known at the start of the offseason he wanted to remain with the club, but he wasn't cool with the deal. So, He changed his tone real quickly when they decided to award Austin Keller a 4-year, $24.5 million contract extension, signifying the end of Gordon's time in Los Angeles. So, two-time Pro Bowler, he went on to sign a 2-year deal with the Broncos, $16 million, far cry from what he was financially aiming for last August, and he wasted no time taking digs at his former team. But he's got a point, Haystacks. He's got a big point.
He does. He's a good damn running back.
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely solid.
He's definitely one of those that he's got room to talk.
Yeah, oh yeah. He's got a little pull, as they say.
Right.
But the quick and easy point to that one is he has a point talking about the Chargers and the fan base, man. So they just recently moved. We can all kind of understand what's going on there. But anyway, moving on. Point or no point, the NBA Board of Governors, and this is huge to some, I'm sure. For others, I'm sure there'll be a problem. But the NBA Board of Governors expected to approve a season format this coming Thursday. No, I'm sorry. Thursday, July 31st, the target date to return. Point or no point?
It's not really a point because, we're sitting here waiting to see what's going on. Another, month?
Yeah. I'll say no point for me, but just lay out the fact that to start the season back up traditionally a month after it was supposed to end, how does this bode for the upcoming season?
Exactly.
So I really don't understand. I understand that, you have a legacy and you want to continue that legacy and you want to have a champion, and so you can say that you didn't have to skip a year, but no point. So let's move on. Eli Apple, notorious New Orleans Saint, is now a Carolina Panther. Carolina Panthers agreed to a deal with cornerback Eli Apple. Point or no point?
I think that's a point. That's your wheelhouse and expertise, Mr. Carolina Panther.
Just a little bit. So, of course, former Giants first-round pick in 2016, Apple was traded to the Saints 5 weeks into the 2018 season. He started 25 games with New Orleans the past 2 years. He only had 2 interceptions, 13 passes defense, so it's not like he was all over the place, really earning his keep, I guess you could say. Either that or he wasn't thrown to a lot. I tend to believe the latter. He former number 10 overall pick. He inked a 1-year deal with the Panthers, according to NFL Insider, of course, Ian Rappaport. The deal will pay Apple $3 million, which does include a $750,000 signing bonus. The Panthers signed him for a 1-year deal. Again, $3 million. And the bonus, man, $750,000. I think this gives Eli a chance to prove himself in what is going to prove to be a totally different system with a totally different setup, totally different players. Everyone knows Carolina's all about that defense. You sure as hell ain't been about the offense. But you got Luke Kuechly gone. You got Thomas Davis gone. I guess Shaq Thompson's the next man up. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. And, of course, we just dealt out Bradbury, who we had farmed from the time he started in the league until he actually rose up. He had to become a man, and he grew up quick with the Panthers. And, of course, in typical Panther fashion, they let him go, trade him off. So we'll see how that goes. But he moved from one NFC South team to another NFC South team, and in the NFC South is no joke, man.
I'll tell you right now, everybody knows, again, I've probably said this 100 times on this show, that I'm the biggest Ohio State hater in the world. But I saw that kid at Ohio State, and I think that you guys, if he's given the proper tools and given the right opportunity, I think you guys might have picked up a diamond in the rough right there. That kid was a monster at Ohio State.
But depending on how he's coached, I will agree. Now, from what I understand and from other players on the team, I know other teammates with the New Orleans Saints had said publicly that he was a cancer in the locker room. Now, you and I both know how that goes.
That's that Ohio State aura. But again, that can be coached and that can be brought out with maturity as well. I mean, the dude is in his third, fourth season in the NFL now.
Yeah, I think this will be his fourth or fifth season coming up.
So, in the right system, I think that they can get him in the shape, and with the right maturity, he'll be okay.
Yeah, with the whole cancer in the locker room thing, you hear all the time different jobs and careers and stuff. You hear that guy's a cancer, this guy's a cancer. It's like seems to be somewhat of a catchphrase over the last several years or decade that's really caught fire, and it's really a matter of perception. You know how it is. If somebody don't like a guy, everything he does is going to be wrong. They're going to look for all the wrong. They're going to, if you love the guy, you're going to look for all the good. So hopefully he fits. Hopefully, obviously we're rebuilding here in the Carolinas. So the Panthers franchise is definitely looking to go up because I don't see any more down we could possibly go. We obviously signed Walker and a couple other people that are big names. Obviously Walker from the XFL, big standout with the Houston Roughnecks. But we'll see how it goes. It's an experiment worth watching. So they could have done worse. I'll say that much. So next point or no point. I'm not a hockey guy, but let's talk about it. So the NHL commissioner, regular season is over. They've made a decision, and they will have a 2014 playoff in 2 cities. Point or no point?
Point. I really like this.
Right.
It's going to be interesting because it's really going to put, in my opinion, of course, it's really going to put the NCAA on blast with their 4-team playoff.
Yeah.
24-team playoff, that's huge. That's March Madness type stuff right there.
Yes, it is.
And I mean, I love it. I'm obviously, if you guys have ever heard my line of teams, I am the underdog man. I'm a Cubs fan, Browns fan, Sooners fan, damn Oklahoma City Thunder fan. I am the underdog guy. And that's why I love March Madness so much, is the underdog usually sometimes prevails. So to have a 24-team playoff, that's going to be pretty exciting, man, because there's going to be some of these teams that wouldn't have necessarily got a shot.
True.
That are going to come in there like, this is our one chance. Very
true. So, according to a report out of Columbus, WCMH in Columbus, Ohio, NFL Commissioner Gary Bettman on Tuesday outlined plans for the NFL season to resume. Bettman announced the regular season is now over, and the rest of the season will conclude 2014 playoff, and the playoffs will consist of 12 teams from each conference, as determined by the standings from this past March 11th. Of course, the top 4 teams in each conference will receive an automatic berth in the first round of the playoffs. And, of course, the top 4 teams will play each other to determine the first round seeding. So, interesting stuff. We'll see how this plays out. I mean, when you're talking about a world of sports that's been afflicted with the coronavirus pandemic, this craziness, so to speak, that goes along with it, for lack of a better word, it's probably the best option for the NHL. And I think, much like the NBA and other leagues you're going to see start coming around, they're going to have to get creative but still have a little bit of tradition in there. And what's more traditional than a sports tournament, man? So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be really interesting to see who comes out on top with the Stanley Cup this time. So we'll be keeping our eyes peeled as more leagues, of course, come along, and of course the outcome of the tournament will cover any and all we can possibly cover. But point or no point, I thought this was interesting because I see an evolution in this whole storyline, this whole narrative here. So point or no point, Mike Tyson to get $20 million contract offer to return to boxing.
That's a point.
Damn right. So are you starting to see the evolution? We've been covering this since its inception of this whole return, this comeback. And believe me, I am the biggest proponent of Mike Tyson returning to boxing. I am not, however, a proponent of all the people he may potentially have to face. Because whoever it is going to die. But, he started off with this charity exhibition. Okay, now I think you kind of gauge an interest when you're putting that out there. You're putting your toe in the water. Hell, Mike Tyson shouldn't have to put his toe in the water, but he's been out the game a long time. Just like Michael Jordan, if he tried to come back right now, Michael Jordan would have to kind of prove himself regardless of who he is. So he stuck his toe in the water. Now he's getting $20 million plus deals. Now, I think what I'm getting ready to tell you is pretty interesting here. I think he did that to see if there was interest. And, of course, now there's interest, which to me is a no-brainer. But according to MMA Fighting, Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship, BKFC, is set to offer Tyson over $20 million to come out of retirement and compete in a fight for the organization. Did you hear what I said?
Yeah, buddy.
MMA. So, the company offered 53-year-old Tyson $20 million earlier in the month. But its next offer reportedly will include more money as well as charitable donations. Ding, 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 key word. Which is why he stated he was coming back. The last time the former heavyweight champion competed in a boxing match was in 2005. Man, $20 million.
If I'm Mike Tyson, I'm saying $20 million. I'm going after Money Mayweather money.
Why not?
If I'm 53 years old and I'm getting ready to get in the ring, get punched in the face, not to mention I'm getting ready to go into a world that I've never been in MMA, as we just saw a boxer get the crap kicked out of him.
Absolutely.
Or an MMA fighter get the crap kicked out of him by a boxer in a boxing ring. It's going to be the same thing. If Floyd Mayweather would get in that octagon.
We got a guy breaking it down here, going by the quote unquote studio here. Easy Rider.
If Floyd Mayweather would get in the octagon with old McGregor, I'm telling you right now, it would have been a whole different outcome. Conor McGregor would have head kicked that dude before he knew what happened.
They knew what was smart. It was about making money. It wasn't about getting hurt. That's for sure.
If I'm Mike Tyson, I'm saying if I'm doing MMA, you better come up with some $100 million Floyd Mayweather money. Because I'm afraid, as bad as Mike Tyson is, he gets in an MMA ring, someone's going to freaking kick the dude's head off.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like we saw it with the first time the XFL came around. We saw when you tried to turn professional wrestling into professional football. There's no doubt in either of our minds, there's a lot of people, because hell, a lot of people came from football to pro wrestling. But there's no doubt in either one of our minds or anybody watching that a lot of pro wrestlers could go to the pro football field and have the build, the physique, and the physical ability. They just have to learn the process, right? But trying to take them straight from here to here, point A to point B, generally doesn't work out. You look no further than Brock Lesnar. Now, I take nothing away from Brock Lesnar. He went, he tried it, and hell, he made the practice team. That's more than most people could do, and he did that just on sheer size and ability alone, with some football background. But to take somebody from a boxing ring and put them in an MMA fight, that's a stretch. That's a huge stretch. Now, you can take someone from the MMA world who has a little bit of box, like they did with Mayweather and Conor, and it made sense because you almost felt bad for Mayweather, because if he would have got his hands on Mayweather and he got close enough to Mayweather, it probably wouldn't have been, if they were being legit, it probably wouldn't have ended well for Mayweather.
The problem with MMA to boxing is, with boxing, all you have to worry about is getting punched in the face. Where MMA, you have to worry about getting punched in the face, elbowed in the face, shouldered in the face, kicked in the head, kicked in the body, kicked in your legs, taken down on the mat. You've got to worry about angles and what this dude's going to do, to where, and I'm not taking anything away from boxers, because I'm telling you right now, I would maybe last 2 rounds getting punched in the face.
True story.
But to sit here and have to worry only about 12-ounce gloves coming at your head compared to a bare foot that from a guy like Brock Lesnar that has legs the size of freaking red oak trees.
Yeah, well, let's not forget either that, you're talking about joint manipulation. You're talking about dislodging arms, shoulders, elbows. I mean, I could go on and on and on, man. I mean, it's a big difference. It's a big difference. It's a big, big difference. So if I'm Mike Tyson, depending on, of course, you got to gauge offers. Somebody's not going to put an offer out there and then leave it there. I mean, after a while, it's going to get, they're going to say, all right, well, they're going to move on. They're going to find the next greatest thing. And it's going to be what it's going to be. The last subject, last point or no point, is WWE has moved to adding their staff out in the ring to kind of create this around the ring, to create this false sense of a crowd.
That sounds like a brilliant idea.
Yeah, point or no point.
Let's make this a point just so we can bash WWE for a second, because I kind of feel them. I feel the need for speed.
Go for it. The floor is yours.
This is where I'm going to get on my soapbox and say that I swear to God that Cody and Vince watch our show, because we were talking like 2 weeks before and saying that pumping crowd noise, and like 2 weeks later AEW started pumping in fake crowd noise, and after that kind of sounded a bit hokey,
right?
They started putting staff around the ring to actually make an appearance that there are people, and they were shooting pretty cool angles. And then Vince, in all of his infinite freaking wisdom, goes, let's do it. So he steals the idea of the guys that he does. He steals the idea of the pissant company that they don't pay any attention to.
Yeah. Well, here's my opinion. My opinion's pretty simple with this whole process, okay? This whole thing is new to everybody. Now, of course, have we had pandemics before? Yeah, of course we have. Way before our time, okay? But we didn't have all this technology and the TVs and all this stuff. So it's a learning curve. They're learning. They're trying to evolve. I'm sure you remember the first pro wrestling shows that came out. after the no crowd thing, that was showing the empty seats in WWE. But in AEW, they had the bright idea of putting different things out there instead of chairs and lights and like billboard, pieces of artwork and just different things, structures. And it worked. It worked for that week. But if you're a fan and the next week comes along, you're going to be like, you're already seen it, you're bored with it. Because it's not like a crowd where you're getting different reactions to different things. And so then, of course, like you said, they moved to finally having the other wrestlers come out and sit around the ring and, announcers and things and having them yell and piping in crowd noise. And it worked for a little while. And then WWE just kept doing the same old, same old. And then you saw them slowly, always 2 steps behind. They start with the structures and the stuff in the audience and all that. And then, of course, being at the Performance Center, they have limited space. I'll say this. But the point of that is WWE is always 2 steps behind everybody else. And like you said, they claim that they don't watch it. And they ain't paying attention. And, of course, they kind of have to say that. So it is what it is. But the biggest thing that I've noticed, the difference between AEW right now, and I'm not talking about NWA or TNA, Impact, any of that, or even Ring of Honor, just AEW and WWE having the highest rated shows at the moment. The difference between them is AEW, they had Tony Khan owns the Jacksonville Jaguars, so he has access to that arena, that football coliseum, whatever you want to call it. They have access to that. And you saw the things that they're doing with the shoulder pads and the helmets that they had made. And does it mean anything? No, it doesn't, but it looks cool.
Right.
It's entertainment. It's something different every week. And that is something that the WWE, I think, has that mentality of, we ain't got to do that. We're the WWE. We do whatever the hell we want to do. And in the meantime, you got fans, true wrestling fans like myself and you, that are watching this going, damn, that's pretty cool, man. AEW's doing some pretty innovative shit. So where do they go from here, though? I mean, things are slowly starting to open back up. So
that's what's going to be interesting is how they're going to do this, if they're going to start letting crowds in, but you have to, if you're only going to be able to run a stadium at half capacity. That's going to be an interesting factor, man, to see what they do. Because your arena is still going to look half empty because you're still going to have to separate people. So you're going to have a person, and then you're going to have 4 or 5 empty chairs. But it's going to be an interesting dynamic to see how they handle this situation.
Well, I mean, you look at it and you think to yourself, okay, as far as aesthetics go, as far as looks, it's not going to look good having a half-empty arena with it all lit up. And you don't have to light it up. You can keep it dark and just use the crowd noise. But if you do light it up for aesthetics, you could have a person, you could have some kind of a structure or poster, and then, and strategically place it there out to where it looks full. So the empty spots that you actually do see, you see movement and there's crowd. And not only that, ticket prices. People are probably going to be willing to pay a hell of a lot more for these tickets because much like this rioting crap that we see going on, everyone's been cooped up in the house with the coronavirus crap. So that's added the fuel to the fire that, okay, I'm out of the house and then, all that shit. So it'll be very interesting to see how they go about this whole thing. I mean, I don't know that there's a right answer, and I don't know that they could really do anything wrong at this point. Just keep trying different stuff. I think it's when it gets to the point that you stop trying new stuff, that's when the problem starts. So,
and in all honesty, if you guys are actually really listening, which I know you're not, don't jack up freaking ticket prices.
Oh, yeah.
We've been screwed enough by being locked down and then being freaking sent home from work because of protests. Cut us a damn break. If you can clearly run a show and you're still making money running a show with an empty arena, cut us some slack. Cut your freaking ticket prices. help us poor people out. We want to enjoy the shows too.
True story.
Vince, you're a billionaire, dude. You're a billionaire. You can break even for the next 30 years and still be fine.
True story. So that is a perfect way to end the show. And I do believe it's my turn to drop the point. So on that note, Haystacks, do you have any final words?
Hinkle, finkle, dinkle, do.
Absolutely. Kazunite. So with that being said, I hope you didn't get any on you. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and cut this out. Don't forget, before I drop the point on you, make sure you tune in for next Tuesday, episode 18, 4.5 months anniversary. And until then, it's been your boy Ricky B and your boy Haystacks, the man, the myth, the legend. Coming up soon, I'm dropping the point on that ass. So stay tuned. And again, we'll see you next Tuesday. Another fantastic episode of The Point, episode 17 in the books. Thank you all again. We cannot thank you enough for staying tuned. But it's time for your boy Ricky B to drop the point on that ass as only Ricky B could do. Simply put, damn sports, damn entertainment. This week, the point is very simple. It's time for us to wake up in this country and be good to ourselves and be good to one another. To be decent human beings and to remember there is no black race, there is no white race, there is no Hispanic race, there is no Asian race, there is only the human race. Wrong is wrong, yes, right is right, always, no doubt. But there's a right way and there's a wrong way to speak your piece. There's a right way and there's a wrong way to protest. There's a right way and a wrong way to effect real change. I know. I'm just a guy on a sports show. What do I know? You'd be surprised. Ladies and gentlemen, start looking up a little bit more often than you start looking in the mirror. And if you do that, if we can all do that, and we can respect each other, this world we live in is going to be a hell of a lot happier of a place. See you next Tuesday.
Thank you for watching The Point.
Goodbye, cruel world.